Welcome to our nightly terrors. I'm Meek and Nomicon, and today we're going to be playing through the game Dagon. Now if you're enjoying my content, then please remember to subscribe to this channel. But other than that, let's start.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the Elder sign. You can also access all the found facts later. They will be available on the main menu. Oh, spectacular! There will be secrets in this game!
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Oh,
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
oh, so this is like our last will and testament? I'm writing this note.
It was in one of the most open and least
One sec. I cannot hear your dulcet tones over the background noise.
frequented
Now,
parts of the broad Pacific,
much better.
that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
This is all... Is there any secrets? Okay, I know I can go to the boat, but can I find secrets if I do? No, I cannot. Is that gunfire?
The Great War was then at its very beginning,
Yes,
and
it
the
was
ocean
then.
forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Ah. So you were the good kind of... Well, I take it you were valuable then, so they had to treat you well.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Wait, did we escape or did they let us go? And why did we go alone? Could we not gain any of our other crew? Well, this definitely looks like I escaped.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
This would be my literal nightmare. I mean, I'm incapable of finding my location with a map. I would be doomed. I wouldn't know where to go. Well, I mean, is that setting or rising? Because that's either east or west, right? Oh, no.
Never a competent navigator, I
Same.
could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator.
Well, that's more than I knew.
Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Definitely not. I mean, it's very beautiful. Like that, this water looks incredible, but, yeah, no, we can see nothing. There's, I'm not entirely sure how long that light is going to last. Look towards the horizon.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
We've got a problem. We've only got one oar. We have literally only got one oar. I don't know how we're supposed to sail with one oar. Isn't that just going to send us in a circle? Oh, but I fortunately have some water.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Yeah, that'll be the dehydration.
The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
You slept through the apparent end of the world. Congratulations. Are we sure there's no secrets? There seems like there
When
should
at
be
last
secrets.
I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
I don't think the boat is the most pressing issue right now. Have you not seen the octopus tentacle monsters directly in front of your face?
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished.
Okay, there we go. He did in fact notice these abominations in front of him.
For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core.
Again, it's not really the sinister quality that seems to be worrying me at the minute. It is the literal animals in front of us.
The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
I don't think these are carcasses. Correct me if I'm wrong, but these things are moving. Doesn't that indicate life?
Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the
That's big.
stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
Yeah, that's understandable. Can I just point out, somehow we've now got 2 oars. How did we manage to
The
summon
sun
second
was
oar?
blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Secrets! Yes! The Origins of Dagon. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Irvin S. Cobb about unnatural affinities between a hybrid idiot and the strange fish of an isolated lake. Supernatural horror in literature, H.P. Lovecraft. And Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I dreamed the whole hideous crawl and can yet feel the ooze sucking me down. In defense of Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from his aversion to fish and sea smells. In his own words, I have hated fish and feared the sea, and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old, but I cannot recall what earlier experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. The Dweller in Darkness, Lovecraft, 1927, Donald Wanderay. That is respectable, Lovecraft. Fish! Fish are abominations. Fish are evil. They do evil, evil things.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
What, death?
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
Oh, I mean, you could have drowned and you're currently in purgatory. Both are reliable options, I believe.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might.
Can we even see the ocean anymore? I don't remember
Nor
seeing
were
it.
there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
Again, they are clearly not dead. That one is pulsating. What things that are dead pulsates? No, I want secrets. Are you telling me there's no more secrets? Curse it. I will find you.
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
Well, I mean, that's one good thing about our
As
boat
the
being
day
beached.
progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for travelling purposes in a short time.
Did it? Because it kind of still looks like a bog.
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Are you telling me we slept all night under this? Were we not concerned about the tentacle monster clearly engulfing our boat? I feel like we should be more concerned about these tentacles. You are far too calm, my friend. And you know why people would be calm in this situation? Because they're already dead. I'm calling it now. We died in the ocean.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease.
Okay then.
The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Well, I mean, the good thing is, if we don't exactly know where we're going, we can hardly get lost now, can we?
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Are we not concerned about this? Because that looks incredibly cool, but also like it's going to kill us. Especially because that looks like maybe an arm of the entire beast. They look like mandibles. That's so cool. I don't want to meet the creature though. No? We've got nothing to say about this. You sure? Are you sure you don't want to talk about this? Okay. I must go and find the monster that spawned all of these. It's probably going to kill me. But it shall be a worthy death.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Is it going to end up being some kind of like illusion, and like because of the placement of how the sun hits it or something, just always makes it look close? Or is it going to be like an oasis in a in the desert? So it's just a mirage, something we hope to see, but doesn't really exist. The horrors of the ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu mythos and the fictional underwater city of Relia was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Marina Snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet below the ocean's surface, in never-ending darkness and at hellishly crushing temperatures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures, such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth or the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some irony in this. I've got to say, if we ever got so far down into the ocean bed and we found some of these Lovecraftian monsters, I would love it. And you know, I wouldn't even be scared of it because I'm never going to go that far underwater, so they're never going to cause a problem for me. Unless, of course,
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance.
Well, I mean, good thing is, it wasn't a mirage. But also, okay, the only issue I can think with the statement I just had about finding these Lovecraftian beings is if it was a Cthulhu-like monster that ended up destroying the world. At that point, yeah, it's going to cause issues for me as well.
An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface.
Maybe this is the time we choose to go back. I mean, this is a really big mountain.
Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Okay, well at least we didn't go climbing at
I
night.
know not why my dreams were so wild that night.
Really? You're surrounded by Lovecraftian monsters and you don't know why you're having weird dreams? It's the
But ere
fish!
the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
You know what? I've been mocking this guy, but I've got to admire how calm he is in this entire situation.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day.
Oh, why?
Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
Oh, that is a big point.
Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset.
Oh, yeah, because if we were walking through the sun, wouldn't we need more water because we'll get dehydrated quicker?
Picking up my
we didn't think
pack,
this through.
I started for the crest of the eminence.
Okay, I take it back. We're going to be traversing this hill at night.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine.
Oh, that's a big drop.
I felt myself on the edge of the world,
That's great and all, but I'd advise maybe not stepping off it.
peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness.
Wait, is it... this is better have happened. Are you just going to put me back in the first scenario where it's saying I'm going to go through the window?
As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
We're going to go down there, aren't we? It's like, yeah, no, it's not quite that steep. I can make it. Yeah, we're going to go down there. Well, why not?
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
I'm just saying this now, my friend. We're going to go down there, but we're probably going to slip. Or part of the hill is going to give way.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Sure, I'll trust you on this. We're going to slowly climb down. Come on, am I going to hear a rock slide?
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze,
Oh, we made it.
I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath,
Is this when I meet the monster?
gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which
guess.
rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
Are we talking about the giant glowing rock?
An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
I want to touch it. I mean, it's probably going to kill me, but I want to touch it. Will we proceed? Yes. Let us go.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
Then it's okay if we touch it. Let's go.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
Really? A perfectly cube, and you don't think it's a natural formation? Curious, that.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Wow, just imagine how intensified it will be when we go touch it.
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Wait, are we not going up to the rock? My friend, we're gonna have to touch it before we leave. Oh,
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm,
is that drawings?
and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope.
Am I gonna
Across the
drown?
chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Well, the top one's all fish, right? I think I even see a starfish up there. Oh, there's a squid. So, well, let me guess. Normal fish and then Lovecraftian monsters below.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books. Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like.
Shark! I see a shark.
Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
Are you talking about the giant tentacle monsters you were saying were dead but were very clearly not because they were pulsating? Those creatures?
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, the Shadow Out of Time, the Haunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, Mygo in The Whisper in the Darkness. It's all considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
Oh, so merman.
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well.
Oh, is that going to be this monolith? So was this entire crater once underwater? Maybe that pays off, because if his theory, then this entire island was actually underwater and it was, plate movement that made it rise, that would make sense why this structure would also be underwater.
Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint.
That's the Lovecraft effect for you. If you merely
grotesque
know
beyond
these
the
things,
imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer.
You will be sent insane. Oh, they're cool. That one's my favourite. The centre one.
They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background.
I don't think they've been chiseled badly out of proportion. I think these are really cool.
For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Oh, so that's a display of how large these creatures are then, right? They are going to be massive.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe.
Just imagine how terrifying that would be if these creatures did actually exist somewhere underwater, and we disturbed them, and so they came closer to the top, as the movies often do. And you thought you've seen a whale, and you go up to it, ready to get pictures, and suddenly, nope, this monster emerges instead. How terrified would you be? Well, I mean, only momentarily, because you are very quickly going to die afterwards, but still, for a second you shall be terrified.
Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me.
I'm just curious, would there be other carvings on the other sides?
Then, suddenly, I saw it.
Did you? Oh! Oh! Something's making waves. Now I see it too!
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Maybe I shouldn't go to touch it. I very much wouldn't make it across the lake.
Vast, Polyphemus-like and loathsome,
I was
it
right!
darted like a
That is
stupendous monster of
terrifying.
nightmares to the monolith,
It goes back to me though, right? It doesn't see me.
about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
It doesn't see me, right? Maybe I should go hide behind the rock. Doesn't
I
matter.
think I went mad then.
Most likely. That's a common occurrence to see in any Lovecraftian being.
Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Oh. So I was correct. You see that monster? Think you see a whale? It's terrifying.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing.
So, is this going to be like some kind of skeleton graveyard then? For all of these Lovecraftian beings?
I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat.
So now everything's dead? Go on, you can say everything's dead now.
At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Oh no. I should hide into the boat.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital.
Oh, don't say my prediction's right. None of that actually happened. I jumped out the window.
Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
Okay, so no, we didn't jump out the window. We did go on the boats and we did escape. We just never made it to that land.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention.
Yeah, they probably just chalked it up to dehydration and all
Of any
that.
land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Probably for the best. You don't want to get sent for a psych eval. I would wager. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticisms to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1919, was one of the short stories written during that period. In his example excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than a conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm, one or more nations would undoubtedly retain secret arrangements, and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is, or ever can be, above warfare, until the basic impulses of human animals shall have miraculously changed. You know, he's got a point. I mean, it's kind of human nature that, if you agree to truce, well, someone's likely to break that agreement. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Is that what we wager he looked like? He has the full body of a fish, but with human legs and human arms. What looks like a human face as well. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as a patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word Dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. I like how this god went from fertility and crops to, nope, you are now fish boy. You are god of the fish. Poor Dagon, he just wanted crops to grow.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Have we seen it? Have you seen the book? The Necronomicon is here! Yes, we must click it! August Dereleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Dereleth was an American writer and anthropologist. No, that is wrong. That is just, there's no P in that word. Why did I add a P? There was no P. I'll go again. August Dereleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works, after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Dereleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Dereleth after the author left the mortal plane. Huh. Why am I beginning to question everything I knew about Lovecraft? He didn't even want the Lovecraftian lore. He just wanted to make his stories. And you know what? I was tricked. I clicked on this thinking you were going to tell me about the Necronomicon. I mean, I love hearing about Lovecraft, but why highlight the Necronomicon if you're not going to mention the Necronomicon? Is there anything actually I need to click on? No? You're just stepping me from one place to another. I see. I don't...
It is at night,
I'm back
especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
Oh, I understand now. I'm retelling my stories, aren't I?
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave.
Oh, are we trying to make ourselves forget about what we saw?
So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
We couldn't handle what we saw. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12, in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zalia Brown, dated 13th of February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor, and never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunts or coarsens the delicate natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance. Drinking it excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favour of the prohibition of any one antisocial force, as well as any other. Source: The Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft's Letter to Zalia Brown, Reed Bishop, H.P. Lovecraft. Okay, so yeah, he is very much against anything that inhibits us.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply.
I mean, there's no way you'll ever be able to know one way or the other, right? I mean, even if it's felt incredibly real, there's always going to be that doubt in your mind of, did I in fact just imagine it? Was it just a dream? And you'll never be able to prove it one way or the other.
I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
I've got to say, at that point it would be terrifying. But it'd be so incredibly cool. I want the Lovecraftian monsters to reign supreme. But I've got a question though. In this one instance, is the whole reason he's being driven insane not only because of what he saw, so this possible Cthulhu mythos situations, but also the fact that he can't prove whether it was real or not. So it's that whole doubt and second guessing himself almost that is probably driving him partly insane.
The end is near.
The window is there. And what was the... They're trying to get in.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Well, the one thing we know is not the fish from the water, because they would not fit in that doorway.
It shall not find me.
No. We are barricaded. Rather unsuccessfully. They're in fact going to find me.
God, that hand!
Maybe I was wrong. How does he fit in here? Was he not massive?
The window!
Okay, we are... Is there nothing else I need to see first? No? Then I shall go. Well, that sounded like it hurt. Hey, I just got an achievement. From madness to oblivion. Well, I think that was a nice way of saying, yeah, you died. So I'm guessing that last moment then with the hand coming in was just paranoia or imagination, essentially a representation of our madness. I'm gonna guess the real person that was coming through the door was just someone we know. It's so cool though. I do love Lovecraftian horror. I think my favourite is the monster that's supposedly living in outer space that is currently sleeping. And the moment it wakes up, it's supposedly it's meant to be able to destroy literally everything. It's that powerful. It's the god of the gods. Let's hope it stays sleeping for a while. Well, I hope you enjoyed that playthrough of Dagon. Gotta say, I really do love Lovecraftian horror. The monsters that he has come up with is exquisite. If you want to play this for yourself, I'll leave the link in the description below. You should go check it out. If you enjoy my content, then please remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel. But other than that, catch you next time, guys.